There's something that's become far more important in my life over the last few years, particularly since my daughters have started school, and it is this. I don't know if you have any of this involved in your life. This is hand sanitizer. Again, having daughters in school, you realise how many bugs go around, how many germs seem to be about, and how often people get sick. It was recently that all three of my girls made it to half term and none of them had got ill, and we were kind of having a bit of a party on the Friday night, like, you've done it, you've managed the whole term. And there was so much sickness and so many kids had been off. I think there was a point where about a third of the school had actually been off at a certain time because of this one bug that was going around. So we were kind of high-fiving, very impressed. And then that night, my youngest daughter starts vomiting. And then, of course, you know how it goes. We pass it around as a good family should. And so this stuff has become far, far more important. And I here have got the bourbon flavoured from my wife as a little gift, which is slightly ironic because I don't drink. But she actually bought 20 of these different flavoured hand sanitizers to hand out to our daughters, but to all the teachers as well. And they loved it. They were so appreciative. Because why? Well, they don't want to catch anything. They don't want germs. They don't want bugs. They don't want the dreaded Australian flu. They don't want DMV. You don't want cough and colds that seem to go around and spread around so much in school. And I think that the book of Colossians, written by the Apostle Paul, is a little bit like his kind of version of a hand sanitizer for the church at Colossae. Because at the time that he wrote this letter, there were so many different kind of worldviews, religions, that people were starting to get interested in. And I think Paul's fear was that it would get mixed, that some of these things would get mixed with the pure gospel and taint the true gospel. There were a couple of things going on. Firstly, there was animism, the kind of worship of animals or these kind of ancestors of old that were maybe kind of coming back in animal form. There was a lot of animism at the time. There was also astrology, the worship of planets and stars and things to do with space. Obviously they had a very limited view in those days compared to what we know today, but still there was massive fascination to a point of idolatry, of interest in the stars and the planets. There was also pantheism, which was a kind of a weird mix of just believing that God is everywhere and in everything, in every object. Obviously, we as Christians would believe that God is everywhere, but pantheism believes that God is everywhere, but in the trees. God is in the grass. God is in the fields. God is in everything, and so everything becomes God. And then finally, the biggest fear for Paul, I think, was Gnosticism. And this was a belief that in its early forms used a lot of Christian language. And so it's hard, I think at certain points it was hard for people to distinguish between Christianity and Gnosticism. There were some links. Many Gnostics did believe in Jesus, but there were two main dangers with Gnosticism. The first was that they believed that you could separate the body and the mind. In a sense then that everything to do with your body, everything to do with physical matter was sinful and wrong, and everything that was spiritual was completely separate and was good, was perfect. This meant then that you could do whatever you wanted with your body, you could sin in any way you wanted, and it didn't impact the spiritual at all. So that was the first danger. The second danger was that they believed in something called a higher knowledge. Gnosis simply means knowledge. And they believed then that the only way you could get close to God, the only way you could know anything of God was to receive this higher knowledge. And the only people that had this higher knowledge, this higher access to God, were Gnostics themselves. And so it was a very elitist group, and the only way that you could truly connect with God was to get this secret knowledge that was not revealed to everyone. Now, the Apostle Paul then really he speaks so strongly against this, particularly I think in verse 9 and 10 of chapter 1 of Colossians. Let's read that. It says this: "For this reason, since the day we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you." So this is the prayer of Paul. "We continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of his will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. So what does Paul say against this kind of infiltration of the Gnostic teaching, trying to infiltrate and kind of contaminate the church at Colossae? He says, look, understanding, knowledge and wisdom, that all comes directly from God. God will give that. God gives us that freely. It's not hidden. It doesn't have to be strived after in any kind of a deep spiritual way, but it is revealed. Anytime it talks of, the gospel is talked about, Paul talks about it being revealed, that in the old times, in the old covenant, people were looking forward to the Messiah, but they didn't know what he would look like. They didn't know what the new covenant would look like. But now we know, because since Jesus has come, all God's fullness has been revealed in him. The secrets of the gospel are not secrets anymore. They've been revealed completely. We have the knowledge, we have the understanding, we have the wisdom directly from God. This is not a secret higher knowledge. This is a knowledge that is welcome and just put out to all. And its question is whether we will receive it or not. Will we accept God's wisdom and will we walk in that? And that's what we see in verse 10 then, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord. He's talking there about your whole life. This is not just what you do with your spirit. This is not just about, this kind of separation of body and spirit. That's not known of in this Christian life. Our life is a holistic thing. It is complete. It is body and mind, body and spirit. And our whole life is to live for God. And the only way we can do that is using the understanding, the knowledge and the wisdom that God gives us. What Paul says is, become what you are. You've been gifted with all you need. Now walk in it, bear fruit in living for God. And in doing that, then you will know even more of the knowledge of God, as it says, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. This isn't attaining a higher knowledge. This is not secret knowledge, but this is as you walk in faithfulness, as we live for God, as we bear fruit, we see more and more the way God is leading us. We see more and more what God is calling us to. We see more and more the areas in our lives that we need to confess and repent of. This is the gospel. The gospel, it has been revealed. It is not a secret, but it is a whole life gospel, body and soul. And for Paul, it is so important that Gnosticism, but also astrology and pantheism, all those things would be rooted out and recognizing the beauty of the one simple gospel. All those things are false gospels. The one true gospel, that Jesus Christ came and lived the perfect life and died a sacrificial death, and we are to put our faith and trust in him and follow him. The only way we do that is by God giving us wisdom, knowledge and understanding, and then we can walk in it.